In these perilous times, see from current events how biblical prophecy is coming to pass in front of our eyes. You're watching In the Last Days, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. With Martin and Natalie Blackham, thank you to our friends and partners who make this program possible. Now, here's Martin and Natalie.
Hi, welcome to the In the Last Days television program with myself, Martin Blackham. Natalie says hello. She's behind the scenes today. We are the program that looks at Israel. We look at the news. We look at features from Israel. And it's great to be with you. We have a special guest in the studio now. If you were watching last week, you will have seen him, Dr. Mordechai Kedar. Thank you so much for coming across again today to be with us. He's a senior lecturer in the Department of Arabic Studies at Bar Ilan University in Israel. He's a speaker with the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies. He served with the Israeli Army Military Intelligence Amman for 25 years, where he specialized in Islamic groups, the political discourse of Arab countries, and the Arabic press. He's a lieutenant colonel in the Israeli Army Reserves and is thoroughly familiar with the Arab media, with what's happening in the Arab countries. The Los Angeles Times, Edmund Sanders described Mordechai, as one of the few Arabic-speaking Israeli pundits seen on Arab satellite channels defending Israel. So thank you so much for coming in the studio today. Thank you. And we were just talking just before we started the program about what's happening in Lebanon. So maybe we can just touch on that we have a lot to get through in the program. Maybe it'd be good to give us a bit of a recap as to what you're aware of as to what's happening in Lebanon and Syria, and particularly with ISIS.
Well, on the ground, there are already in two places the Islamic State or the Nusra Front are on the gates of Lebanon. It's in Kalamun Mountains and in the Jusia crossing. And they actually are threatening to occupy Lebanon or to invade Lebanon in order to get rid of the Shia in Lebanon, because they think that the Shia is some kind of infidelity. As they say it in their language, after we get rid of the rat in Damascus, we will go to get rid of the mouse of Beirut. Meaning the first is the Assad, and the other one is Nasrallah in Beirut. So this in their language. Definitely Lebanon today is in a problem. Today in Lebanon there is another problem because of the garbage collecting issue, which is for weeks already, is not collected, and the stench is terrible in Beirut. It is.
Is that due to a strike, or there's a
it is
problem?
A combination of strike and the problem that they cannot operate anymore the place which they were taking care of garbage, and they don't want, and nobody wants in his backyard in another place like this. So, and the government is dysfunctional, the parliament is dysfunctional, and there is no president for over a year. So actually there is no one to make decisions in this country except for Hezbollah, which actually behind the scenes controls almost everything in Lebanon. And Hezbollah today is immersed in the war inside Syria, and many in Syria who got hurt by Hezbollah are threatening to take revenge from Lebanon entirely. So people in Lebanon today are shaking and shivering because of these threats of the Islamists, whether it's the Islamic State or it is the Nusra Front, which in my view will unite one day, and both will crash Lebanon in no time after they get rid of the Alawis in Syria with their swords, as they already threaten. And this is actually the bitter situation in the Middle East, and the community which will suffer the most is the Christian community in Lebanon, the Maronites mainly, because they are Catholics and they are Christians and they are infidels and whatever. And only recently, the Islamic State turned the church into a mosque. They cut off the cross on the roof, and now it is a mosque. And not to mention what happens to the girls of the Christians in Syria and in Lebanon, and which are in some cases sold for slavery as the Yazidis girls. So definitely they are threatening all the minorities, the Yazidis and the Christians and the Alawis and the Shia and the Jews, of course, as well, are on the line of this domino as being seen from the Islamic State point of view.
And from a strategic point of view, how do you think Israel looks at what's happening on its borders? It's not, there's been some news in the press of possible Israeli attacks, but it's not been confirmed or denied against targets in Syria. But how do you think Israel looks at what's happening on its borders?
Well, as much as I sense Israel takes it very seriously, Israel will make no jokes with them. And already, it was already in the media, Israel is building a new commando division, something which we never had. We had units. Now they united all the units, which gives them much more power. And now it's a commando division. And this, in my mind, is something which Israel will face the Islamic State with. Because it's not a war which you wage with tanks and cannons. This is something different. Because those people are hiding in cellars and in addicts and in the streets and in the shops and in ditches. And a tank is ineffective in such an environment, especially in cities. You need commando people, boots on the ground, so Israel gets prepared. I hope that there are some other countries in the world out there also getting prepared, because if they don't prepare to wage the war inside Syria and Iraq against this Islamic State, they will have to wage the war on their own soil when they succeed to export their terror to all the countries, especially in Europe.
Now, in Egypt, there's been a recent, not too long since we've come in the studio today, but they've been fighting in the Sinai. I believe there was a lot of casualties of Egyptian soldiers. And
Sinai is actually the result of a reluctance, I think long-term reluctance of a government when it comes to terror. Because as long as those terrorists were acting against Israel, smuggling weapons to Gaza, nobody really took care of it. But when they start to turn their rifles and their explosive devices against the Egyptians, all of a sudden Egypt started the war against them, real war. And Israel allows the Egyptians, because they are not allowed to bring heavy weapons into Sinai because of the peace agreement between Israel and Egypt. But Israel shuts its eyes not to see how they operate in Gaza, in Sinai, big time against the Islamists, because this is the way to deal with them. However, the Egyptians are not very effective, because those jihadists in many places are hiding in caves, because Sinai, a part of Sinai is very hilly and rocky mountains. And there, people can hide in caves behind rocks, boulders. And if you don't send people to catch them, one by one, they will come down from the mountains and kill you. And this is actually what happens. They attack police stations. They attack army bases. They attack buses which carry soldiers. And definitely the Egyptians now face a very, very big problem with those jihadists. Take now in account the fact that now they developed the Suez Canal. They dug a new part of the Suez Canal in order to enable more traffic in the canal, because they need the money, they need the income from the canal. But everybody knows that those ships might be targeted by those jihadists if they don't get dealt with. So definitely Egypt today facing this terror, which already crossed the canal into Egypt, into the Nile Valley, because we see in Cairo, we see in Alexandria, we see in other places in Egypt, which those Islamists are targeting the government. I expected it since Morsi, the president of the Muslim Brotherhood, was ousted in mid-2013, because there are too many people in Egypt, millions, who identify with the Islamic rule on Egypt, which should be. They wouldn't be silent for long because of what happened with Morsi. And don't forget that Morsi now is facing the justice, and he might be executed because of things which they say that he did. And if you think that millions of Egyptians will sit silently seeing their president, the Muslim Brotherhood president, being executed, it will not happen. They will burst to the streets either immediately or it will take time. And the wave of terror which we see today in Egypt is definitely the result of what happens in Egypt, because Egypt wants to survive as a state, not as an Islamic state. And this is the problem.
And we've got the situation where we've not just got problems on the border of Israel in Lebanon, but you've also got Jordan now is fighting, and I believe Israel recently supplied them with drones to enable them to fight the ISIS, I think.
Drones and helicopters also, and this was everybody knows it. Israel didn't hide it, they don't hide it, and this is actually American helicopters, which America agreed that Israel moves to Jordan, because we in Jordan today face the same danger. Because the Islamic State endangers Jordan not only from the outside, because they are already on the borders between Syria and Jordan, they threaten Jordan from inside. Because there are people in Jordan, mainly in the city of Ma'an in the south, but not only there, who identify with the Islamic State. And they can organize, either by social media or other means, in order to topple the king, and to take the country over. It is a scenario which can happen. I don't know what is the chance that it happens. But states like Israel, the United States, and maybe European countries as well, will try to support Jordan in order to defend this state and to sustain to give the kingdom the way how to sustain in front of this pressure from the north. I'm more than sure that Saudi Arabia also will support them, because if Jordan falls, the next is Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, by the way, is building a giant fence, apartheid fence, between Saudi Arabia and Iraq, because they are afraid that the Islamic State will come from Iraq to Saudi Arabia. They can have the same fence between Saudi Arabia and Jordan if Jordan falls prey to this Islamic State. So this is actually what happens here in this part of the Middle East, when this Islamic State, which is totally a new phenomenon to many in the world, actually bites parts of other countries, Iraq, Syria, threatens Lebanon, Jordan, they threaten Israel as well. Turkey. Now they are with problems with Turkey, because formerly Turkey was facilitating all kinds of things for them. The passage of jihadists, money, they were buying their oil, and many other things. Recently, Turkey decided to stop its support to the Islamic State, and this is why the Islamic State might also act against Turkey. However, the Turks are strong, decisive, and they don't make jokes. They have very short patience and a very weak sense of humor. So, in the good case, in the good sense of this, and they will deal with the Islamic State with no mercy. So, I believe that the Islamic State knows the limits. How do I know it? They actually occupied the area until Baghdad already a year ago, more than a year ago, in June 2014. Why did they stop there? Because they know that Baghdad is waiting for them. Baghdad is dug. Baghdad is with mines, with booby traps and everything, with tanks sunk in the sand, in order to deal with them the way they know. So they know it, so they have some respect to Baghdad. So this is how this Islamic State acts. They occupy wherever they can. They stop when they have to wait until they can.
It reminds me a bit of Nazi Germany when it was advancing through Europe. That when they had in France they had the Maginot Line. The British built this. I say imaginary. It's a real defence. I mean, the French. It was a French fortification to prevent the Germans from.
Yes, but they went around it.
And they went around it. They just went almost comically. They went round the sides, and the same with Islamic State. They know when there's
a crack in the
yeah,
in the
they just go
defense.
around.
Yeah, look, they occupied Mosul within one day. Mosul is a city of 4 million people. If you have to fight in such a city, it will take you years in an urban warfare until you take such a big city. But they took it within one day. Why? Because everybody ran away with them. Because everybody is intimidated and afraid. Because they behead people, they burn people. Who wants to be beheaded?
And that's one of their strategies is in the media, the war of the psychological,
Yeah.
just like the Nazis, the psychological warfare, so that the enemy is defeated before they even
It's paralyzed out of fear. Yeah, this is a great way.
Now, one of your role, you're a senior lecturer in the Arabic studies, but you're also working in the media. You've done interviews with. We were talking last week with Al Jazeera, and also I saw one of your interviews with Russia Today when there was all this story which wasn't true of the harvesting of organs from Palestinians in Gaza and
in West Bank, actually.
How was it in the West Bank?
Yeah, this is such a lie. You know, everybody who knows, the minimum about medicine knows that you cannot go to a corpse 2 weeks after the man was dead and to start taking organs. It doesn't work anything.
But the Swedish reporter was so he thought he was so right in his story.
He just recycled lies which some Palestinians who are compulsive liars gave him. So, and people amplify it and media definitely take, copy and paste from one paper to another paper. And here Israel harvests organs of people who died 2 weeks earlier. It is something everybody who knows anything about transplanting organs know that this is nonsense.
And do you think that as Israel faces this media war, do you think Israel's ready for the media war?
No, unfortunately, this is an imbalanced war, because we as Israelis try to be honest, try to be true, try to say the truth and to show the reality, while the other side, especially Al Jazeera, but not only, are not committed to truth. They have an agenda of media jihad against Israel and against the West and against Christianity and against everything which is not Islam. So, and they are not committed to truth. So it is some kind of unfair battle between somebody who restricted himself to the truth while the others can say lies without blinking. And this is the situation where Israel is. Journalists who work in the Palestinian Authority's areas are forced to report only things which the Palestinians impose on them, especially in Gaza, especially last year's clashes in July and August. So this is the imbalanced media war, which Israel unfortunately is part of it, and I'm afraid that Israel is doomed to lose this war because of the fact that we try not to disseminate any propaganda which is not based on facts. It also in the academic institutions.
You mean in Israel?
In Israel, we see some people who are part of it, but it's mainly in Britain, in Europe, in America, in some places, where Israel is vilified. Israel is singled as one state which is responsible for all the problems of the whole world, just like America or things like this. So all those people who are anti-Americans are anti-Israelis as well. It has some anti-Jewish sentiment definitely inside. Some kind of anti-colonialist, as if Israel is the last colonialist in the world, as if France doesn't have islands in the oceans, and as if Falkland Islands are not still occupied by the colonialists from London. Okay, Israel is singled out as the only colonial state in the world when we came back to our forefathers' land in Judea and Samaria. So we are colonialists.
And okay. do you? I mean, you've visited the United Kingdom. Do you think there's a fear of speaking about the truth about Israel? Speaking about Israel, just speaking, going into academic or places to speak, and also speaking about Islam, the truth about Islam. Is there a fear?
There are in the United Kingdom many who support Israel and Israel's cause, and they understand the Jewish right to the Jews' land, and they sympathize with Israel and so forth. But unfortunately, there are others who would boycott Israel and divest from Israel and sanction Israel only because Israel exists. It's not a matter of occupation of 1967, it's the occupation of 1948, means the whole existence of the state of Israel. The BDS, boycott, divestment and sanctions movement, has a very significant presence in UK institutions. All kinds of organizations flourish in the UK under the idea of freedom of speech and so forth. Anti-Semitism also is involved in it, and unfortunately there are some Jews who try to be viewed as liberal who take part in this as well, and for them Israel could vanish. They don't identify with Israel, they see themselves as British more than they are Jewish. By the way, there are some American Jews also who would think that if Israel cannot live in peace with its neighbors, Israel is to be blamed for this, not the neighbors. The neighbors are doves and pigeons and nice behaving people, while Israel is the only problem in the Middle East. And as they say, and this is why if Israel cannot live in peace with its neighbors, Israel should vanish.
Which brings me on to the subject of Iran, because so many, I think it was, there was so much publicity, Mordechai, in the news about Israel almost being very awkward in opposing the Iran deal, which has recently been in the news, and almost like Israel should move out of the way and not interfere. And
look, for the world, the Iran issue is a matter of money. Investments, profits, oil, and all these things. For us, it's a matter of existence, it's a matter of money. And we look at this with the background of the Holocaust. We think too much from the point of view of people who were victims of a vicious Holocaust which burnt a third of our people. This is why we cannot be blamed for being worried about such a thing, especially when the Iranians are speaking day and night about a world without Israel. What does it mean? A world without Israel, a world without Zionism, or a world where Jews should be subjugated to Muslims, or the small Satan should be exterminated or wiped off from the map. We understand exactly what they mean, and we don't try to interpret it in another way. Because we know already what happens if you ignore the slogans of burned Jews. And unfortunately, the world doesn't see it. The world forgot, maybe deliberately, what happened only 70 years ago. Look, there are some Jews who still go around with a tattoo on their hand, which was made by the Nazis. So we are thinking from this point of view, and this is why we oppose this deal totally. And we ask very small questions. This whole deal is about 15 years. What will be after 15 years? Even if Iran restricts itself and doesn't do anything according to the agreement will be expired after 15 years. We plan to be here forever. So what will be after 15 years? When all the administrations in the world which signed this agreement will all be sitting at home, retiring, and writing their memoir. Okay, we have to live here. We are not sitting to write our memoir.
And we know that the Iranians are developing they have nuclear facilities. We know that.
Everybody knows it. They don't even try to hide it. And everybody knows what their intentions are. They don't let inspector comes into Iran. They will make the inspections on themselves. Believe them. Would you buy a used car from them? Okay, so, and unfortunately, the world falls in this trap time and again with the Iranians. Look, the world is negotiating with the Iranians for 18 years already. 18 years they are cheating. Every 18 years they are lying. They never implemented even one thing which they committed to. And the world thinks that now they are saying the truth. Why? What they are different people? They think that they should dominate the whole world. They divide, those Shia in Iran divide the world to 3 parts. One is Dar el-Iman, means the house of belief, which is the Shi'i part of the world. Another one is Dar el-Islam, which is the Sunni. Another is Dar el-Kufr, means the house of infidelity. All the kuffar, the infidels, should be Muslims, and the Muslims, means Sunnis, should be Shia. And this is the world, and they came to the world in order to convince the world, in a way or another, to convert to the Shi'i Islam. And with a bomb, it will be much easier to do it. They want to occupy Saudi Arabia in order to take Mecca and Medina, and to restore the Shi'i Caliphate, which was taken from Ali bin Abi Talib in the mid-7th century. They want to take Iraq because Iraq is a Shi'i country. They want to take Bahrain. They want to take Syria with the participation of the troops already in Syria. The Quds force was already fighting in Syria, and the world doesn't say anything. Although Iran is not allowed to send soldiers to other countries, they topple Yemen in order to take Yemen over and to have their footstep in the Bab el-Mandeb Straits, in order to have a grip on Saudi Arabia from the south, from Yemen, and from the north, from Iran. They want to take Lebanon by Hezbollah. So it is more than clear, and they say it day and night.
The viewers are going to have to look at your open ed on Israel National News if they want to know more, or maybe it'd be great to have you again as a guest. Thank you so much for coming in today. We're very, very grateful. And thank you for joining us. It's been great to be with you today. Don't forget you can email us at info@inthelastdays.com. And remember, we're living in the last days.
You've been watching In the Last Days, a TV program with Martin and Natalie Blackham, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. If you would like to financially support the program or find out about conferences, meetings, or ministry products, then please contact us with the details on your screen. Visit our easy-to-use website at www.inthelastdays.com and register for our free e-newsletter. Get the latest news from Israel, product information, online video teaching, or watch today's TV program at a time that's convenient to you. Thank you again, friends and partners, for making this program possible.
See you same time, same station for the next program from In the Last Days.